Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Thank you for making Missoula Real Estate Today part of your weekend. A Super Bowl weekend. We're glad you're here today. Thanks to Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate for providing the program and bringing us great guests each and every week. An old hand at Missoula Real Estate Today. It's Sean Murphy from Murphy Radon Testing and Mitigation. Welcome back to the show. How are things going?
Everything's going great. Thanks for having me.
You said you were a busy guy.
Yeah, very busy with the real estate market the way it is.
Yeah.
A lot of action, a lot of transactions, and that's a lot of where I get my business.
Yeah, and what did inspire you? What inspired you to be a Radon guy?
I moved here, and my first date with my wife, she said, "You know what you should probably get into if you're a contractor is it's hard to find a radon mitigator." I said, "Really? What's that?" So that's how it started. It was her idea from day one, literally day one.
Yeah. You wanted to make a good impression on that first date, and you just absolutely loved the idea.
I said, "Yes, dear."
Yes, yeah. It worked out pretty good, didn't it?
It did. It's working out real well. It was a really good idea, and it was a slot that needed to be occupied.
And I asked you before we went on the air about your logo, and you'd mentioned that your wife had actually designed that. But
yes.
Something I saw very interesting on your logo, which you can see on your vans, your service vehicles, your website. There's a number 86 above the name Murphy Radon, and then a number 222 below the name. That interested me.
Yes, that's just basically the backdrop for the logo was the periodic table of elements for radon, and even behind that is a radon molecule laid out. It's a little overcomplicated and it raises questions, but that's what was the backdrop for it.
All right. Well, at least it meant something. Somebody just
the big red square is the base of the periodic table of elements, and after that, it's my name.
Excellent. I love it. Let's do Radon 101, Sean. What is it, and how does it find its way into your home or your place of business?
It's a radioactive gas that you can't see, you can't smell, and it works its way from the soil. It's geological. So the makeup of the ground is the source, and starting with uranium and so on, the radioactive decay and breakdown of elements, which I don't know if I could answer the exact quiz on all of them in the process, but it's basically through the radioactive decay and breakdown of it being in your house. That's what the health issue is.
Does it fluctuate in any way? I mean, if you detect radon in one specific area and you measure it, will that measurement stay constant, or is that ever changing?
There is, as far as getting an accurate measurement, there is a lot of variables.
Mm-hmm.
So many variables. So from how the house is built. Oh, let's start with the source of the radon, where it's coming from, what's the density of the source, what's the soil makeup above it, within it. Does it move easily? Does it move not as easily? Then the structure, are there things that are causing it to come in faster? Things might be working in your favor to keep it out. You don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of different things. So typically you start with there's basically a map of the United States, and we live in a zone that's high. The entire state is in a zone that is highly made up of there's radon in the soil. In this area in particular, from basically all the data that I see coming at me from phone calls, it's barely high. It's consistently barely high. So some people say, "Oh, there's a huge radon problem here." It's I don't know if the word huge problem. It's a problem. It's
mm-hmm.
No matter what the level is, it's manageable. So out of curiosity, a lot of times I'll ask, what was the level when it tested?
Yeah.
To make sure it even needs to be done. But for the most part, it's there. It's whether it's 100 or whether it's barely over the line. My tactics on tackling it might not be that different.
I think you barely started to address this next question here. Are there things people do around their homes that they might be unwittingly adding to a potential problem?
Well, yes. The structure of your house is typically, most structures are a negative space, a negative pressure to the outside atmosphere. So anything you do, anything at all that is taking air from your building and not replacing it is increasing the potential for radon to find its way in. So, for instance, leaving one window open, and this is all theoretical, hypothetical from the literature, but you leave one window open on the west side of your house, and the wind is blowing west, you are sucking air from the house. You could be bringing radon in, even by having a window open. So, but then again, if it's blowing from the east into the westward open window, you could be pressurizing your house and pushing it out. So, things like leaving a bathroom fan on all day, that's not good. That's, use things accordingly, but leaving something running that's evacuating air all day long, people just leave them on, that brings radon in.
See, now, and you just cited two examples, a window and a bathroom fan, that I assume maybe most the average consumer, that never would have entered my mind as possible ways. Is there a lot of those kinds of things? That
I've never had that be the answer to how do I get rid of this radon? Well, just turn your fan on. That's just that's an example of a way to depressurize your building.
Okay. This is Missoula Real Estate Today. It's presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Sean Murphy, with Murphy Radon. Also, Sean, very erratic in its presence, right? You might detect it in one area, and then not far away there just won't be anything?
That's correct. That could be from composition of the ground. That could be different structure, even different lifestyles can so in a real estate transaction, it's not realistic to do a 12-month test, but in this, that would be the most accurate in my opinion. However, if it's high, then you're living in it for an extra year and this and that. But a 12-month test is just, there's a little testing device, a little cheap looking thing that you hide in your house somewhere on a shelf, and you live your life as normal. And then that will tell you, like, maybe you like the windows open all the time. Some of those crazy people who have them open in the wintertime. Maybe you particularly aren't dealing with radon, even though it's in the ground. So that's the most accurate way to test. However, it's the least realistic in the real estate industry.
And you're talking, I think, about more or less an over-the-counter product. Are you not?
Pretty much,
something
yes.
You can pick up in a hardware store? Your opinion as a professional, is it fairly accurate anyway?
In my opinion, as a professional, I'm more weary of, if someone's using a home kit and it's low, I would double check it. I could think of ways that are hypothetical to make a radon reading higher. There's ways for sure that I could make it lower. So people will ask me, well, how come when I bought my house, it was 0.6 picocuries per liter? I can explain what that is in a second, but that's the unit of measurement. So it's 0.6. So why is it now 30? What happened to my house? Well, the reasonable question would be, well, what happened to the test? And without leveling accusations on anybody, what happened with the test? Did someone's kid accidentally leave all the windows open? Did they not follow the protocols? So that's more than likely there was an error in the test.
Right.
But if a test, even a home kit, comes back with high radon, 12 picocuries per liter, it's kind of hard to fake that. There's something there, in my opinion.
And explain that reading. What that term
picocurie is a unit of radioactivity. It's actually not a measurement of volume. It's a measurement of radioactivity. So many millions of disintegration. So as the radon molecule goes through radioactive decay, basically it explodes. The shrapnel or the alpha radiation going outwards, that's what hits the center of a lung cell and causes cancer. So it's picking up on that radioactive decay. So if there are things that can throw off these tests, as far as once in a while my testing equipment needs to be recalibrated. Every once in a while one will get bonked, and I'll start off with 12 picocuries per liter, and I mitigate the house, and then it's at 2,500. That can't be right. So I actually had a recent incident where I placed another test, because that one obviously needs to be recalibrated, and I got the same reading. I'm like, what is going on here? There is no way, unless the first test I'm going off of was inaccurate and it's 2,500. This doesn't seem possible. Even the company where I run my test through, they even called and said, what's going on with this? I was setting it next to something that was letting off some sort of interference that threw it, because I set two more tests in different parts of the house and got almost nothing. So right where I set it in the same first two times was too close to some heavy electronic piece of equipment. I didn't realize it would interfere the way it did.
Yeah. For example, what would a heavy piece of electrical equipment be?
It was a real big TV.
Really?
In
Okay.
this particular chance, yeah. I mean, hindsight, I guess I should have seen that one, but
Yeah.
it was definitely. So that's just so people understand. And the same thing with that radioactive decay. For any agents listening to this, it's still something I've been trying to. The common sense thing is, oh well, the house was closed up for 3 months. That's the only reason it was high. Well, it's actually more than likely accurate, is what it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't build and store like holding it in a balloon forever. Whatever was there 12 hours ago is currently disintegrating. The half-life is 12 hours. So it doesn't build and build and build. So the house being shut down is just going to give you more of an accurate reading, which is probably going to be higher a little bit, but it's not greatly higher. You're not marinating anything in radon in there. It's whatever's currently working into the house is no longer there in 12 hours. It's going through its decay.
Also, near the top of the show, you had mentioned where Montana sits in terms of radon levels, somewhere between normal and high. Whatever the answer is, can you point to any particular reasons as to why it's the level that it is?
It's just the geology. Okay. It really breaks down to geology and what the for instance, granite. Now, I can't, for people with granite countertops, I don't want them to panic. But I don't set my tests on granite countertops. Granite emits radon. And that being said, I have no specific information. Every slab and every chunk of granite has to be different because there's no, hey, if you have this many square feet of granite, it's going to be this much radon. There is no definitive. It's just, I mean, you could have a real, I guess, hot piece of granite, but there's granite in the ground here. There's granite in a lot of these places. I've found some places that were really high, and wow, wouldn't you know, when I'm under the house crawling around, the whole thing's just like crushed granite. It's all crushed, smashed, decomposing granite.
Wow.
Yeah.
Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Interesting stuff with our guest, Sean Murphy of Murphy Radon, doing radon testing and mitigation here in Missoula. So, Sean, let's talk a little bit about radon reduction systems, a service you provide.
Sure.
What makes them an effective product?
Well, I use what I consider to be the best stuff in the market, really. But it's just basically it's all the stuff specifically designed to create these over the years. Originally, when this was started, which I don't know exactly the year that they started this, it was real primitive stuff. And once in a while here, I'll run into these old fans that wow, I can't believe they thought this actually used to work. But now we have these real nice, quiet running, donut-shaped fans. I carry different fans for every sort of soil type. I don't even know what fan I'm going to need until I'm actually into the dirt. Some of them, the differences are so small that I just carry the best in each category because, one won't be as powerful, but it's, it's just a little bit more money to just get the best one. So it's just not even factored in. I couldn't imagine carrying every single type because there's about 50 different types for every situation. But yeah, it's what makes them effective is really just the understanding on where to put it and how it works, and a lot of things. So much could be done still, and I just don't know. I guess I don't know the avenues to take other than radio shows and talking to builders, because a lot of times I'm put in a very awkward position where, and it's through no dishonesty whatsoever, but someone has been told they have a pre-mitigation system. All they're going to need is a fan. That's not true. It wasn't done right, and now here I am, getting yelled at by the builder for telling them it. So I find myself walking a tightrope by saying, "Hey, look, you weren't lied to. This just wasn't accurate what they were going off of. It wasn't accurately installed. The pipe's too small. The liner's not put in. So when people think they just need a fan, I say, okay, well, where do I plug it in? And they just look at me like, so I need electrical too. Right there, we're 2 seconds into this thing, and you don't have everything you need. So that's the bigger problem I deal with. So at some point, and then trying to piggyback off what someone else has done wrong, sometimes it's like, this is going to be easier if I just start over. And it's not a huge difference. It's not, and I don't want to talk, like money's no big deal, because it is for everybody. But by the time, we're talking a difference of maybe $500 just to guarantee it done right.
Yeah.
Instead of like maybe.
Not bad for a long-term investment like that.
Exactly. And even for people who are skeptics on the whole radon thing, which I would understand, because you can't see it, you can't smell it. So who knows, right? I don't blame people for thinking that way, but also I just try and stay neutral with it. I didn't do the research either way. So people that are so adamant that it's not real, that haven't done research, it's okay. I mean, how do you know? You don't. And someday, a long time ago, I was a paramedic, and there was things that were, there was drugs I was currently studying that suddenly are on the class action list, and you're seeing commercials. If you took this and you're going to die, it's their fault. And you're like, wait a minute, I've literally watched people take this like 6 months ago. So, and things are always changing. So this seems to be a pretty constant over the last 40 years that I just think that the testing procedures would be the place where I would tighten it up.
I don't know if you can narrow this down to one. If you need to give more than one example, please do so. But
sure.
What's the most? You deal with a lot of people, not because you've caused it, just because the nature of the situation. Radon, it's odorless, colorless, it's dangerous. But one of the more stressful calls you've ever had to make. Have there been instances of, man, we got here just in time?
It's kind of the opposite, I think, sometimes. It's what I try and convey to people is that the only current, for sure, known risk is lung cancer and is not getting sick. So I have people that have Googled up a panic attack, so they're talking to me and they're worried about all these things. Yeah, and I have to, it's a good source of information. I'm just saying it's if you want to look at the worst side and worst possible case scenarios, but I'll be talking to people and then I realize that a comment will be made. Oh, well, my wife will finally be able to breathe. I wish she has lung cancer. Well, no. Well, I don't want you to feel ripped off when I leave here and she still can't breathe, because that's not an allergen. It's not, if this is a preventative measure against lung cancer, and that is it. That's it. There's no allergies. There's nothing that's known yet.
Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Sean Murphy of Murphy Radon. Radon testing and mitigation here in Missoula and the surrounding area. You got a lot of safety guidelines, I'm sure, Sean, you have to adhere to. What's a typical remediation job like, I guess, in terms of preparation and duration and what all's involved?
Well, that's actually a good question. Every single house, it's hard to get a routine that's a complete routine for me anyway, because every single house is so much different. So a lot of times the first hour of the day is just figuring out exactly how I want to do it. And then from there, it's basically not – the biggest part is not making a bigger mess or bigger contaminants. Don't leave people – back to the kind of one of the rules of being a paramedic. Don't leave people worse than you found them. So, like, I got your radon out of here, but there's concrete clouds of dust throughout your whole house now. So I use all the OSHA-approved concrete collection methods and all the high-end, high-power vacuum systems and all that to ensure that the real nasty stuff doesn't get out into the air. Stuff way worse than radon. I'm not trying to make a bigger mess, disturbing other things. If I run across asbestos, I don't mess with it. I don't smash through it. I don't, things like that.
Also wanted to ask you, we have talked a lot about radon testing, and now we're kind of getting into to mitigation and what that's like. But what prompts people to call you? What are some common ways that they might know they need your help, or they just think, we've never had this tested. We're not concerned or in a panic about any situation about our health, the way we feel, or anything like that. But it's never been done. So what are some common ways or reasons folks might want to get a hold of you just to find out?
Well, 90% of it just is from the real estate transactions.
Yay, realtors. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, all the agents out there. So that's about 90% of it, and then from there, there's the someone will see something on TV, or they'll hear something, or they'll have someone who they knew that didn't smoke up but came down with lung cancer.
Okay.
What the heck would cause that?
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's front and center of non-smoking reasons.
Sure, top of mind awareness that way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you take smoking off the table, I believe it's the number one cause of lung cancer. So That's what the studies show. So it's definitely, and those are the ones who are a little more scared, who I have to convince them, or it sometimes takes a little because you also can't. Here I am telling you, like, hey, I can't be in there for 2 weeks. You're gonna have to live there for 2 weeks in high radon. You're moving from another state without it, so now you've only read the worst things. The odds are heavily. I can't guarantee you're gonna be okay, but the odds are heavily in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you got lung cancer from smoking one cigarette, you kind of had it coming. You know,
Yeah, you were due.
It's a minimal risk. It's just a long term. It's a minimal risk over the longer term starts to become more real.
Do you get a lot of inquiries like that? Do you just get calls, folks contacting Murphy Radon saying, hey, no particular reason, but I was just wondering if you could come do a radon test?
Yes, actually. I'm getting things come in waves. So I'll go for 3 or 4 months. I'll get in a call like that, and then I'll get 6 in one day. So,
well, that'll happen right after you're on Missoula Real Estate
It
Today.
does.
This huge listening audience, they're flocked to the radio now. They're your radon disciple. That's when that happens, Sean.
Yes, exactly.
And there's no charge for that, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very nice.
No, I don't mean to make fun of it. I just kidding.
Yeah, it's no, but I get a lot of people that just want to know, just have it tested. A lot of it is they see quite frequently I was just on their street, so it inspires them to be like, "What's he doing here?
Saw the rig.
What's he doing here?" So then they're like, "Do I have it too? I better get it checked." But the one thing I could advise people against is it defies logic and common sense. So almost the smarter you are, the more it'll trick you. It's people like, oh, we should be fine because of this. We should be fine because of that. It's no problem because of this. Well, couldn't you just do that? You would think so. And they're all reasonable ideas, but other than just tackling it head on, because I will even address a problem. And 2 or 3 times a year it'll happen where I hit a snag and it's just something tricking me, and I can't figure out where the radon's coming from, and I'm not making a dent in it. Whether I'm not moving air under the house, there's about 1 million factors at that point. I had one in the South Hills, one of those 70s style houses, that had 2 crawl spaces that no one even knew were there. And the weird layout of this house, when I walked the property, I couldn't tell either.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am with over 1,000 square feet that I have not treated in any way, shape, or form, and I can't figure out why I can't get this thing to pass the test. After the 10th test, I'm like, what is going on here? And it's things like that. Things like that will trick you.
You used a term a little while ago that I thought was great that I plan to steal in the near future, and your business is probably as good of an example of this as any. When people Google themselves into a panic, right?
Yes.
Not saying that there's any such thing as too much information, but you can I don't want to say needlessly because that sounds insensitive, but you can, when it comes to something like radon in your home, you can, what am I looking for? Not go too far, but
what I would say is, you can Google up that information. WebMD. But once you're done with WebMD, talk to the doctor. And when he tells you what's going on, so then at some point you got to take the person's word that's higher qualified. Mm-hmm. So Google up and look at all the bad, horrific things about radon. But once someone who works in it day in and day out tells you, like, this is actually what you should do, or, things like that, and then you might want to listen to them. Because I find myself a lot of times being the only person not being listened to. And there's a transaction where you got both agents and you got buyer and seller and this and that. And, well, everyone thinks I should do something, and none of it has anything to do.
Oh, boy.
Like, just raise your hand if you're certified here. Anyone else? No? But it does. Yeah. So I just smile, try and make the customer happy, and then make it so it's within the guidelines.
I'm glad you brought up certified. First, a special thank you to some of Diane's marketing partners that help bring you Missoula Real Estate Today. They are Rob Fleming with Man Mortgage, Miles Link of Opportunity Bank of Montana, and Carol Blodgett from MakeItMissoula.com. It's Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere, and our guest Sean Murphy of Murphy Radon. Talk about being licensed and certified, Sean. It helps assure customers that you're legit, for one thing, right?
Yes, I feel it does. In for my line of work, the banks require it in a lot of transactions.
Is it a difficult process?
I found it to be kind of difficult. Yeah, kind of
good.
lengthy. Yeah, it took about 1.5 years to get through the whole thing, and there was nowhere to do an internship, so I had to through my school, which was based out of Michigan. I had to do a over the phone internship with one of the I don't even remember his name, but one of the instructors there, and it was it was a process. And I did find it funny that for setting up my machine and pressing one button, as simple as it may seem, there's little things you look for just to ensure you're getting accuracy. And that is the only test in my entire life I ever failed first time. Was the test to set the test, not the actual mitigation part.
Right.
No problem. The actual test to set the test. It was actually kind of funny because they give you all your materials and the zone chart for the United States. I thought, well, wow, that's interesting information. Good to know. Who said that 70% of the test would reference that chart? I couldn't believe it. After halfway through the test, I'm like, I feel I should have looked at that chart more.
Yeah.
Why am I getting asked so many questions about non-existence of radon in Florida? I don't understand. Why do I have to know this? But it was on the test, so.
Yeah. How about recent success stories? Anything Murphy Radon has done lately that was particularly gratifying to you?
You know, I would have to say there's two things. It's actually almost as much as I like getting paid. I like being the guy who has the answer. Who when no one else will help them, or they've kind of dropped the ball and they need this done. And they're running out of time, and they're either the buyers being unreasonable, and they will not close the deal unless this is done. And instead of, I don't know if I can do this now, I like being like, hey, let's do it. If everyone's willing to either have me at their house at night, or if it's vacant, let's do it. So I take being the yes man being the positive when someone's hitting the wall, hitting dead ends on everywhere they turn. I take a lot of pride in that, and I also take a lot of pride in the fact that I don't charge people until I've completed the job. And there's once in a while, about once or twice a year, there's one that when it doesn't pass, it's going to be there's something weird going on. It doesn't pass again, then it doesn't pass again, it doesn't pass again, and it doesn't pass again. So I take a lot of pride in being able to just hang on, never give up till I get it right, and just make it happen. And those are the ones you learn on, though. Those are the ones that teach you the most. The layup situations that you get done in half a day where everything was laid out, you don't learn anything on that.
Yeah. Well, pride in your customer service is an excellent thing. And also, pride in terms of, in regard to real estate agents, you mentioned how much of your business and how much you work with the real estate agency. And a lot of times they're under duress, they're under gun, a timeline, and
Absolutely.
that does not scare you, though.
No, not at all. Another example I guess I could give was, I don't remember the specifics of how it came up on the inspection, but it was a previous system I had done. And there was a piece of the liner or something. It didn't matter. I said, let me fast forward. What was the radon reading when they retested? 0 point what? Okay, so it's working. Okay, we're good. And I said, here's what I'm going to do. I shouldn't have to, but I'm going to drive down to Hamilton right now. I'm going to button up this little torn thing to keep your deal running. Can we do that? And they're like, I said, that's not my problem, this and that. I don't know who ripped it. I don't know who did what. It really didn't matter. But I went down there basically and warranted something that just keep the deal. My wife's also an agent, and I understand. Like sometimes, why are we going to let everything fall apart here? And then that builds a better rapport with an agent. So if someone's the type of agent that will, if someone used me all the time, or I take a lot of pride when someone says, hey, you were recommended, it actually means a lot to me. I'm actually like, wow, someone says this is the guy. Because where I came from in my previous life, I didn't have competing estimates. If certain people, I was in a tight group that if these people said, Sean's your guy, he's your guy. And as long as you were reasonable with your price and everything and comparable, he's the guy. And so when someone says Sean's the guy to do it, I really try not to let anyone down. I don't want anyone to get a call saying, why'd you recommend that guy?
Yeah.
I don't want that.
And if folks want to get a hold of Murphy Radon and find out more, how do we go about that?
The best way is give me a call. Is 406-531-3862 and or Murphy Radon @gmail. Those are the best ways.
Sean Murphy Radon on Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck. Thank you for coming back. Let's get together again soon.
Hey, I can't wait.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today. Contact Diane Beck with Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@realtor.com or visit her website, homesinmissoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.